Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'll be introducing Catherine Chabiron, who you're welcome to listen to. Catherine is a Lean Sensei and author, and an active member of the France Lean Institute. She's going to speak about how companies fail when they can't engage people, and illustrate by the example of the Theodo Group, a French software company that is also the object of the book we co-authored earlier this year, Learning to Scale at Theodo Group. Catherine, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I will try and share my... Oops, I have to optimize the video. Yes, I guess everybody can see my screen now. Antoine, will you confirm that you see it?
Yes.
Okay, then we're on. And my video is there. Okay. So we're going to talk today about failures of companies. Of course, I will be mostly discussing failures of small companies because the examples we've chosen to illustrate the point is a rather small company, although it's growing fast. But what I'm going to say is going to apply to also big companies. So let's go and visit why companies fail. And you will see that very often they fail because they can't really, or they don't give themselves the means to engage people. Oopsie. I've got some statistics here about why companies fail. This is the source is the Fast Company, and it dates back to 2017. But what I've seen in very many big number of studies is practically always the same situation. When you start a business, you've got a great idea, you start a business, it's very, very difficult to survive the first few years. Actually, the computation that is given here is that 50% of those companies will fail in 5 years. They will disappear. And there are many reasons for that. As I said, I'm going to discuss small companies, but big companies also fail. Remember some examples like Nokia and Kodak, who practically disappeared from the market because they didn't see some disruptions coming. So we'll go into some explanations or details about why they fail. Okay, back on small business, still the Fast Company, this is what they say. 42% of small businesses fail because there's no market for their product. They've got a great idea, but the product won't do. I don't know whether you remember the Google Glass some years back. It was fascinating because for those who don't know it, the product fails, so you can't see it anymore. But you had this pair of glasses, and you could go in plants on a shop floor and look at the shop floor and actually record a video or take pictures without the people in front of you knowing that you were doing so. You can imagine how the financial guys loved the idea because they thought they would stay in their office, stay in their meeting rooms, send people out onto the shop floor and get information, practically live reporting from the Google Glass. But it never worked, possibly because it was very expensive, possibly also because it was a bit cumbersome. But also because when they saw you on the shop floor coming with those glasses, you looked like a bit of a pervert because you were actually taking pictures like a spy. Well, I don't know the real reason why it failed, but it did fail. So you may have a great idea. It doesn't always work. And honestly, from a lean point of view, I'm very happy that they failed because that would have been another opportunity for finance to get information from the shop floor without actually setting foot into the shop floor. The second reason why small businesses fail is because they ignore their customers. 14% of them fail because they ignore their customers. either they ignore the customers when they create the ID, or they ignore them once the ID has been presented and made available, or they ignore their feedback, or they ignore the poor quality of service around the product. And third factor is 23% of small businesses fail because they don't have the right team. That becomes interesting because this reveals, the 14% and the 23% reveal that it's very much a human failure to actually reach out both to the employees and to the customers so that there is a great teamwork. So let's go and see what successful businesses do. And here again, small and not so small businesses. You will find that most of them have very quick cycles of raising IDs, testing them, and scaling them. Let's start with the IDs. The IDs, how do you get IDs? In Lean, we know that we start from quite a number of sources. We have the Kaizen, we have all the problem solving, we have the employee IDs, we have the troubleshooting. All this generates a flow of IDs that circulates. And if it's encouraged, people will benefit from it and eventually come with some ID that could profit or benefit the customer. You also have, from an engineering point of view, what we call the value analysis and value engineering, which is basically observing customers, playing with your products or services and understanding where they have problems, what difficulties or what constraints they have, or which other product do they need to use to actually be in full usage of your own product. So this value analysis can actually bring some ingenious ideas so that we can improve the current product. I was watching recently the late Freddy Ballet video on what he had learned. Freddy Ballet, if you don't know him, is one of the co-authors of the Gold Mine. And he's actually in France, our French pioneer in Lean. He actually discovered Lean in France and made us discover it. And what Freddy Ballet discovered when he was observing Toyota is that the engineers in Toyota, before they would start the new version of a car, they would actually go down to manufacturing and ask them, let's take a part or an engine or whatever, how difficult it was to do the assembly of this product. Because not only would they take into account what the customer had in mind or what the customer needed, but they would also take into account the difficulties in manufacturing. So all this activity of Kaizen, of interacting with manufacturing, with delivery, with customers, creates and generates IDs. In the more modern world, let's look at Amazon. I'm showing here the press release fact template that they use. This is a funny story, actually, with Amazon. I understand that they started this with the Kindle. They were trying to put the Kindle on the market. You know, the Kindle, the notebook that we can buy to read books electronically. And as they were preparing for the Kindle, the team obviously was completely in the numbers and the finance and how we're going to make it and so on, and could not really get interested or didn't find time or focus enough to get interested into what the customer would like from that kind of product. And eventually, Jeff Bezos came with the idea, why don't you express this Kindle ID into a document that would look like a press release, as if you were presenting your ID to the press? And as part of the press release, you would also include the most frequent questions that we may have inside Amazon or that the customer may have. Actually, what I'm showing you is this template, and they're still using it today to generate ideation. And they encourage people in Amazon to come up with ideas presented in that mode, PR FAQ. Then this next step is to be able to do some incubation of the ideas. You're going to select the ideas that are most likely to be a success. And here, there is a lot to be said. What I'm showing here as an image is a quote from Toyota. Good products come from good thinking, because this incubation phase is a very important phase to make sure that you won't miss the important point. This is where you're going to go more thoroughly onto the markets and the usage of your products or services. This is where you're going to check what competitors do, or whether there is any disrupting technology that is looming and that could hamper your ID. This is where you're going to test on the cost, do a cost containment. How can we make things cheaper, not reduce cost the financial way, but how can we make those things cheaper? This is also the time when you're going to discuss what is the part that you know that you are perfectly mastering, that you will keep in your product, and which is the part that you will change, and therefore which is the part where you have to learn. So all this incubation phase is really interesting. This is, if you come back to more digital products, this is where you produce the MVP and start minimum viable product, and you start discussing with the customer. This is also, if you're familiar with the term, where you produce a concept paper that would look very much like this PR FAQ template, where you would say, this is the problem we're trying to solve, this is the solution we thought of, this is what we know, this is the cost we must keep, this is what we need to learn, and that kind of thing. So the incubation is really an important phase. And then you have the scaling. And very often, this is where the shit hits the fan, because this is where you have to have people with skills, project skills, but also manufacturing skills or service skills, delivery skills, supply chain skills, purchasing skills. You need to be able to master the technique or the technologies of your product, but at the same time fight for the customer ID you want to promote. This is where you need great teamwork. This is where you need a lot of cash, because this is money you're spending upfront before you can actually collect from the customers when you sell the product. So this is a big risky area. But again, successful businesses accept to have a number of failures. They accept the cost that big ideas can represent. They simply are very good at scaling this activity. And again, you heard me, teamwork. The team will be extremely important, and how people will talk to each other. The picture I'm showing here is showing what the chief engineers, how the chief engineers work. You see the chief engineers of the different vehicles of Toyota talking across the board to the general functional managers who are actually mastering a technology. And the job of the chief engineer is to make the ID turn into a concrete product, and fighting for the customer ID and the market positioning, while listening to all the objections that the general managers will have on the systems that will be used. So it takes a lot of energy, collaboration, teamwork, cash, skills to scale a good idea. So let me explain here with Theodo Group a bit more quicker than I've done up to now. how they engage in their company, how they manage to engage people to do this kind of work, to do this ideation, incubation, and so on. Theodo Group is in the tech world. They do applications for the web, for mobile, in many different domains like finance or healthcare and so on. And we've, as Antoine mentioned when he introduced this presentation, we have been co-authoring a book. We actually did I did actually a number of Gemba visits to Theodo, and we told the stories that what we saw at Theodo. And I'm extracting from that book a number of reflection about how you engage people to obtain these great successes that I was talking before. So what do? They do a lot of Gemba. You can see in the back, close to the wall, Benoit. Benoit is one of the co-founder of Theodo, and he spends quite some time doing product Gemba. He will go and visit project teams that are developing, for example, an app, and he will ask them to show the product. For example, if he goes there, the team is there, the first thing you would like to do when the big boss is coming is show him the deliverables and the time schedule and whether we're late or not. But the first thing Benoit will ask is, show me the product. Show me the product because we need to see it with the customer's eyes. And the second question he will ask is, show me the value we're bringing or the problem we're trying to solve. And he spends a lot of time listening. He doesn't give any advice. He doesn't show what to do. He doesn't tell them what to do. But this spending time on the Gemba gives him a lot of information about the capability of the teams, where they are stuck, what is the capability overall of the company. Are there any market segments that we need to fulfill with more technology or knowledge, because we're obviously not there on those market segments and so on. So a lot of Gemba visits from the leaders. The second thing they do is build trust. Those are small companies, and by the way, I forgot to give you just a number. They have, I think they've been in activity for close to 15 years now. And they started from 2 people, not in a garage, but practically in an office. And they are now more than 700 people. Most of the people are like 30 years old, 30-ish years old. There is turnover because at that age you do change and you have some career plans that will make you change to another company from time to time. And because of the growth, they have a lot of incomers as well. So they have to take care of the people from day one. So there's a lot of training. There's a lot of dojo. There's a lot of feedback meetings. This is a feedback meeting on a Monday morning. They call it the Asakai meeting, where they tell the stories about not only the usual stories that you tell in those kind of meetings, like how many customers we've managed to collect, new customers we have, and so on. It's more the problems that the customers seem to have, or the problems we have on projects, and the lessons learned we have, and how we can share good ideas about a thing that somebody managed to crack. So there's a lot about building trust. They also have book clubs to develop good thinking and communities of practice so that people can discuss their problems. They listen to the customer very frequently. Part of the engagement is also developing the skills of the people to accept listening. It's not a questionnaire that they send to the customer. It's a discussion that they have, and the customer will give the mark while discussing and provide some additional information. It's very difficult to do because actually the customer can be unfair. And sometimes it's not fun to hear that he's not satisfied because of what you believe is a problem on his side. But this is part of the job, of the skill that they have developed, is how to listen to your customer so that you can make sure that you are on the right track. And they do it every week, every project, every week. When a leader goes to the Gemba, he raises questions. While I've put all those smartphones here is because this is an anecdote I have in mind where some of the CTOs of the Theodo came to visit a guy who was preparing the release of an app. And he had to test it on a number of smartphones because, of course, when you develop an app, it must work on all the different versions of smartphones. So he had a lot of devices to identify. He had to find them. He had to upload the app on the App Store. He had to test the app on the different smartphones of different versions. And he was spending a lot of time. And what the CTO said, he didn't tell him, this is what you should do. He told him one question: is it normal or abnormal conditions? And the guy said, not normal. So the CTO said, why don't you spend time and try and find a better solution to be more right first time in your collection of devices and testing? And he did so. And instead of spending 17 minutes, he managed to bring it down to less than 10 minutes. And everybody benefited in the company from this finding. So the Gemba visit is always about raising questions to promote right first time, because right first time is actually what reduces your cost, and it's extremely useful in case of cash crunch. Since we are working on normal, abnormal conditions, then people are able to understand when they need help. If you don't know whether you are normal, abnormal conditions, there's no chance that you will call for help. As they call for help, they get help. And they start problem solving. They spend a lot of time doing problem solving. And the triggering of the problem solving can either come from a lead time that then they have Kanbans all over the place, either from a lead time issue or from a quality issue. Which means developing a lot of skills out of those and-done stories. Another thing they do as well, you can imagine this is critical in the tech world, but it's actually critical in any kind of world. They have to react very swiftly to market changes. In the tech world, of course, we have ChatGPT, we have IA and so on, but all the time they have questions like that to answer. Let me give you another example. They had recruited on one technology for mobile apps, and it turned out that the markets all of a sudden didn't want this technology anymore, but wanted another one. So the kind of questions that they have to face is how quickly can we train our people who know technology A to move them to technology B? The tech radar I'm showing here is actually the way they have found to actually build trust, develop skills, create recognition, because this is written by the employees and about their knowledge of the current technologies that can be used on their business. And they publish a new version every 6 months or so. You can see them on a dojo here on IA. They spend time, a lot of time, learning new technologies. So as Eric Ries from Lean Startup said, the only way to win is to learn faster than anyone else. And this is a question every company should raise all the time. The result is that it pays off. They have survived the 5-year period. And they are doing beautifully, as you can see on the turnover. You can see actually that when they started with Lean, they really created a new pace. It gave them far more engagement from the people, more skills, more capability. And the fact that the leaders are on the Gemba very often, every week, teaches them all the time how it works, and what should be avoided and where they're stuck and what they need to improve. As a conclusion,
I don't believe it. That is why you fail.
this is wisdom indeed. If you don't believe it, you fail. I'm just finishing here because I don't want, and we'll be answering your questions if any. Tomorrow, Fabrice Bernard, that you can see here, is the other co-founder of Theodo Group. And both him and Benoit, the two co-founders, have thought about the Lean Tech Manifesto out of their experience in Theodo. And I think you don't want to miss this tomorrow at 12 UTC. And I will leave you at that and answer all your questions.
Thank you very much, Catherine. A reminder to everyone, you can ask your questions in the Q&A sections. I do have one to start with. How do you develop in this company and these kinds of cases, individual leadership, and how do you take people further into their skills and their maturity journey?
You mean me as a sensei, or you mean
No,
the
as a lean practitioner, and in regards to what the Theodo Group does to develop people within the group.
The answer is always the same. It's Gemba and questions. It's Gemba. You need to go to the Gemba to understand the actual situations. You need the problem solving to understand, to have a mapping of your difficulties in the company. And based on that activity on the Gemba, you will understand much better where you're stuck, and therefore you will be much more equipped to understand where you need to train people or to have them develop, because it's not so much of a classroom training that we're talking about. It's more developing work standards, learning from those who have done it before, exchanging skills, sharing knowledge. This is why I was mentioning very quickly the communities of practice, where you actually people, developers from the same trade will discuss and will learn from each other. And it's also true from the project leaders, project owners, product designers. When you talk to each other, the teamwork, the collaboration, the exchange, the learning together is critical.
Yes, obviously, and I would add that they probably have a way of developing a plan for every person also.
Absolutely, yes, you're right. We saw that when we were writing the book. They're also trying to adjust the development to each individual based on their eagerness to do that thing or the other and their skills. They'd rather develop skills than try to correct failures or defaults. And this is an interesting concept.
In the minute that we have left, there's a question from Margarita Mejia. What was the system the company used to be able to get customer feedback on a weekly basis? To which I will add a second question. How do they listen to what the customers are not saying?
It's
you have 1 minute.
The questionnaire I was showing is actually a piece of paper that's supporting a discussion on the phone or face-to-face. So there's no system, there's no questionnaire online, it's a face-to-face discussion or a phone, at least a phone discussion or a video conference discussion. And how do you actually listen to what the customer doesn't tell you? This is part of mostly of the problem solving. As they propose features, as they develop things, and things don't go as needed, they start troubleshooting, and the troubleshooting will tell them, will normally help them investigate where we're stuck and why.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I think we're out of time.
Yes.
and
Thank
we'll
you all for participating and be there tomorrow for Fabrice. Very important.
thank you very much.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.